Hi, welcome to Sewing by Wendy. In this time of social distancing and uncertainty, I wanted to help others learn how to make a beginner's level sewing mask with hopefully things you were able to find easily. There's a short list of supplies that you will need: cotton fabric, thread and needle, scissors, paper for making the pattern, possibly a pencil. The longer list of supplies you would maybe make your life easier would be a sewing machine, an iron, and some pins. The fabulous extras, of course, would be activated charcoal PM 2.5 filter, or making your own DIY filter with citric acid and some coffee filters. For my mask pattern, email me at underthehoneytree@gmail.com and I will personally send you it. Or find a similar one online and follow along with the video to use it to create your pattern to match. Orders for standard disposable masks are on long back orders due to both demand and supply chain issues. Hospitals across the US are reporting supply concerns. According to the CDC, fabric masks are a crisis response option when all supplies have been exhausted. The type of mask we are trying to make today is called a pocket mask, so that you can insert a filter should you choose to do so. You can also use it as a basic dust mask or as an additional precaution when going out in public when you absolutely need to. Stay home, stay safe. Once you have your pattern completely cut out, you can use it on your fabric. These are some fat quarters. You can pick those, and a single fat quarter sheet, if you fold it in half, pretty much will have a bunch of wobbly zigzaggy lines on them and will be inconvenient. So this is when you want to iron it. This is the only time I iron, because irons are meant for crafting. This is also a really good time to take off your selvage if you have any on there, because, you know, that's that little wobbly stuff that looks different, okay? As you can see, you can buy fat quarters fabric in pre-cuts. These are some pre-cuts you can buy, or you can buy it by the yard, but you may already have fabric you can use at home. You're going to want to stick with cotton. There are several different size patterns you can use. There's a larger size, which is typically for men. There's standard, and then there's a kid size. If you're like me, you have spare fabric around, because I don't have a problem. I just store the fabric. I need it all. You can use the pieces you have left over from previous projects and get them to fit on it. On this one, I was able to use a scrap of monster fabric left and get them all to sit and fit inside of it. You'll want to have your fabric placed wrong side out, good side's kissing. And if you carefully place your patterns on there, you'll be able to get one standard mask and one child mask out of a fat quarter. You can fit it just carefully, and just so if you're careful, unless you're trying to get specific patterns to match up. Pin it down as careful as you need to, and use as many as you need to or as little as you need to, but make sure that you adjust the fabric carefully. If you get the angle of the little tail just so, you'll be able to get them both on one fat quarter. When you're placing your pattern on the fabric and pinning it down is when you want to decide how much seam allowance you want. So depending on your skill level with sewing, you'll want to decide how much seam allowance you're going to need. I use a very small amount, so it may be different for you. Basically, right now when placing your pattern is when you want to adjust it to what works for you. Whatever your skill level, whatever your personal preference is, this is the time to adjust that. Once you have your patterns placed, right now I'm placing a standard and a kid's mask on here, the main piece. What you'll want to do is use a pencil or a sewing marker I would not suggest using a Sharpie. I'm showing you a Sharpie on here so that you can see where I placed it, and I drew the lines over afterwards. Don't use a Sharpie. But what you'll want to do is you'll want to, oh, did you see how I laid this out in one piece? But if I had tried to use it like how we did the other one, it wouldn't all fit. So take advantage of your fabric. But what you'll want to do is you'll want to get pencil and outline it so that you can see it, and then cut it out. Or if you're super lazy like me, leave it on there and cut it. You can use a couple options. You want to have fabric scissors if possible. You can use a rotary cutter. I personally love a rotary cutter. My bestie would kill me if I attempted to make her cut this out with a pattern like this. She would just cut the pattern and be crazy angry with me for even trying to do it. But I'll try to show you a couple different ways. You want to get your fabric scissors and you want to cut out the rest of your pattern. Right here, remember, we're cutting out the 2 pieces of our pattern, and I'm just doing it at the same time because of convenience. So you can choose to leave your pattern on when you cut it out, or use your pencil lines to cut it out. If you accidentally cut your pattern, you'll have to reprint a new one, which might be a huge, gigantic pain. So keep that in mind. I remove all the pins from the pattern, and then I'm going to use the front portion of the pattern, the part without the tail, to cut out the second pieces. So when you make one whole mask, in the end you will have 4 pieces to make the mask. Since I'm cutting out 2, the standard size and the child size right now, you'll see that I actually end up with 8 pieces. But just to be clear, the reason I'm doing it this way is I have a fabric that can be used any direction, and this is great because then you can just use the best amount of all your fabric. So you go ahead and trace around like you did before, and then we're going to cut it out. So as you can see, now I'm showing you how you can do it without the pattern there and just cut out the fabric using the lines you made. And a little safer for your pattern that you probably worked a little hard making and figuring out how to download and print it out and get it the right size, so kind of makes it easier. Side note, it is helpful sometimes to print your pattern on cardstock if you have it instead of paper. If you know you're going to be reusing it a bunch and you're going to use the pattern itself, it kind of will hold up a little better. Alright, awesome. So that's all the pieces for the kids ones we've cut out. So officially we actually have all the pieces cut out for one whole mask, and now we're going to cut out the pieces for the standard. So the reason I don't just put all of this on top is one time I accidentally didn't realize it and I cut off my fabric that I already cut out. Don't do that. Make sure you take it apart. So now we're going to make sure we get all of that. You can spin it, make the fabric fit however, or you can try to line up how you want your pattern direction to go. Whatever works for you. This is the piece that's going to be on the inside. It's not as visible, it's not as big of a deal. So we unpin it, we get all of our pieces, and this is everything for our standard. So now we have to make sure that we have the good sides kissing, of course, facing each other, and you're going to want to pin them together. You can kind of just do a couple pins, you can do several pins. Again, it depends on your sewing level of comfort. Top secret information here, I don't even pin it when I'm doing it. I'm just trying to make sure you guys do it the right way. So yeah, pin a couple pins, make sure it's not moving around when you're sewing. Just line it up on your 4 pieces. So this is going to be one mask when you make it. You have the one with the tail, and then you have the one without. As always, whenever we sew in our sewing machine, you want to have proper safety. So make sure that you have your machine threaded, that you remember to lock your stitch, tying the knot with your sewing machine, of course, and keep your fingers out of the safety zone. So this little area, you can keep yourself safe. So we lock our stitch in, and then we're going to go ahead and start sewing quickly, going down. And you do not have to actually go quickly. That's just me. I like to go so quick. But yeah, so taking your pins out carefully. Don't sew over your pins. It's not worth them one flinging out and having the weird accident that occurs. Just take them out carefully as you sew. And lock your stitch at the end and go ahead and pull it off your machine and trim those little threads. You guys got this. I know you can do it. And we're just going to do the same thing for the other side. So the one with the tail, we're sewing it now. We start with locking our stitch, sewing it through. Easy. Same thing. If you are a hand sewer and you want to do this, it will be the same idea. You're going to do it, make your same choice with your seam allowance, make it neat and tidy. However you're choosing to do it, it will work fine. I personally just don't have the patience for hand sewing. Now that you have both your pieces, you're going to get the good sides kissing each other, okay? And you're going to get that little middle seam part and match them up as close as possible. And this is the part, even if you're like me and is like so lazy and never like to pin, you do want to pin this part. You want them to match really evenly, and you want them to aim. The other thing is, you really will maybe want to consider ironing this part. I'm going to be for real. I don't. I don't seem to notice a huge difference, but it depends, again, on your level of sewing. It's nice to press the seam down. It makes it easier to sew if you're not used to sewing very often either. It will help you when you're trying to get over a seam and you're not used to doing it, because there are 4 little edges meeting right in that one spot. So pin it all the way around the top and the bottom, because that's what we're going to sew at this moment. We're going to sew the top and bottom. So you want to make sure you start with locking your stitch again, and then go ahead and pull your pins out as you go. And we're just going to go all across the top and all across the bottom. If you're not used to sewing on that curve, take your time. You don't have to hurry. You can kind of do a little slight pivot up at the top nose piece. You can slow it down. I tried to go a little slower there so you can see. You can manually move your needle up and down on your sewing machine if that's easier for you to kind of pivot at the corner a little better. Feel free, you don't have to hurry. So I want to get my fabric scissors and I want to take up the little nubby ends right where the seam is and just kind of trim them down. And then you're going to go just along the edges, especially where the curve is, and go up towards your seam. Don't hit your seam, you don't want to have to fix that, okay? Just do little tiny cuts, especially where the curve is. It will make it lay a lot more neat and flat, make your life easier here, okay? And hit that just so. Use tinier scissors than what I'm using so that you can have some better control. It will be a lot better for you. Get it to lay flat, but don't obsess, it'll be fine. Now you're going to just grab through the inside and flip it inside out so that you actually can see all the good sides now. Yay! You did it, guys, we're almost there. We've almost got it done. So now you're going to get your little fingers and sit there and roll the edge till it's nice and flat. If you put your finger on the inside and kind of run your finger along the seam, you can kind of get it to pull up as well. That sometimes is easier. Some people use little doodle bobs or pencil erasers, all sorts of different things. It's so small, it's not really going to be hard. The other thing you can do right now is you can iron it. Again, one of those times where it's such a small amount for me, it's easier if I just hold it down while I'm doing it. You can choose to iron it, press it, use pins if you want to, don't use pins, but I just sew it. Don't forget, this is a very important time to lock your stitch at the beginning and the end. As you can see here, there is the kid version and the standard version, which can be for male or female. It just depends on the person's face. There's measurements, the way you can test online to determine which one is going to fit the best for you. The standard fits most everyone, but not always, especially depending on facial hair, etc., things like that. You'll want to check and determine the best safety guidelines for you. But if you look in the picture, you can see how the seams are different once they've been pressed. You want to make sure they've really been rolled up. And when you press them, it's just easier, especially if you don't have a lot of experience sewing. This is called a top stitch. It's the final stitching. So all we're doing is that little tiny edge right along it. You want to go nice and slow. As you can see here, that's the little side pocket in our pocket mask. And that's where you can insert your filter, whether it's a homemade one or the PM 2.5 filter that you can still order online right now as the moment I'm making this, but I do know that finding things can still be difficult. And there we go, we have completed our mask.